Hello, so this is Lois Gray from North Highland College. Today I'm going to show you how to use the ISP IDE to generate and compile a VHDL file. So the one we're going to look at is the one that is the task in your notes. So if we look at this sections 11 and 12 of Electronics 3, this is part of the BEng Electrical and Electronics Honours degree, third year. Scrolling down here, we can see there is a VHDL component design in this section here, and then later on there is also a VHDL test bench here. So we're going to actually carry out task 1, which I think is down here. No, not as far down as that. Task 1. Create a new VHDL Simplify project. Target this particular device and add in the code for the half-adder, which will be a RTL type of device, register transfer logic device. So first of all, we'll open the ISP Lever Classic IDE. So it's on the Lattice Semiconductor. You may have a different version from me. I have version 2. You just use whichever version you have. So if we open that, you might get a blank screen, or if you've been doing other stuff on the IDE, you'll probably get the previous project that you had loaded. We're going to create a new project, so we can ignore everything that's there just now. So the first thing we want to do is create a new project. So if we hover over File, New Project, that's fairly straightforward. What we're wanting to do is a pure VHDL project, so we'll click on that. And the only other thing I would say, make sure that you are happy with the directory in which your project is going to be created. So you don't want to be creating this in one of the example directories if that was the last thing you ran. So you can change that just by clicking on the Browse button here and select whichever library you wish, or sorry, whichever top level folder you wish to use. So I'm going to use this one. This is actually not the original classic base folder. This is one I've created in my own directory. It's not the one that was created when I downloaded the IDE. Okay, so anyway, it's a VHDL project. The two tools you're going to be using are the Simplify tool for synthesis and the Active HDL simulator. I'll do a different video for the simulator though, because it's a little bit more complex. So today we're just really going to look at synthesizing this file. Okay, and then we click Next. Then we can pick our target device. So the target device from the notes is this one here, ISP Mac 4000 LC4128ZE, so we can pick that. I've chosen that one because I know this design will definitely fit in that device. In fact, this design will fit in almost any device, but we're going to build this design up over the course of the tutorials to a fairly complex design, so I did want to pick a reasonably good device that I knew everything would fit in. Okay, and we can click Next again. We're not actually going to do anything with the next page. You could add some source files here, but we haven't actually written any source files yet, so we're not going to do that. So Next again. Just check that you're happy. Oh, it's given me the wrong project name, sorry. We'll go back. Or did I do that? Yeah, we should have changed our project name here to what we want to call our project. So I'm going to just call this My Project 1. Okay, we'll carry on again. Okay, let's call it My Project 2. These are I'm going to leave this video as it is because these are typical sort of things you might come up as errors. So I'm going to call it My Project 2 because I already had one called My Project 1. So carry on with that, and now we can see the project name is My Project 2. This is the project location. It's a VHDL project. This is the device we're going to be trying to fit the code into, and we're going to use the Simplify to do the actual synthesis. So that's all correct, so we can click Finish. And you will see that you'll come up with a new project in the left-hand browser here, and in the right, as you already know, these are browser specific options. So if we click on the device, which is the one we're interested in, then we're going to add a source file, a VHDL source file to that. So you've got two options. You can right click and new, or if you already have written the code, you can import the VHDL text file, or you can also go File. Oh, no, you can't. Okay, never mind, you can't do it that way. It might have been under Source New, but we're going to stick with the right clicking because I know that definitely works. New, we want a VHDL module, not the VHDL test bench, we'll write that later. VHDL module, click OK, and a text editor will open asking you for the name of your file, the name of your entity, and the name of your architecture. So I'm going to call the file, I'll just quickly click through here so that it matches the notes. We had called the file HalfAdder. Okay, so that's nice and easy. So everything is called HalfAdder. I'm not sure if the system will accept spaces. I would suggest you don't use spaces in your names if you can avoid that. Most types of compilers don't really like having spaces and odd characters and names. We're going to call the entity also HalfAdder, but I'm going to call the architecture RTL. Now you can overwrite these settings anyway. These are just going to help produce a template which you're then going to edit, so I wouldn't worry too much about them. You could add your port names and directions, but we're going to do that in the actual text editor. We're not going to bother doing that here. So we just click OK on that. This source file already exists. That's okay. I'm just going to click yes, so we get a new template. And we're going to delete all this stuff down here because this was the stuff that already existed. Right. So what you will see if you're doing this for the first time, obviously if you've already written the file you would just import an existing file. But what you'll see if you're doing it first time is you get this sort of template with your libraries defined at the top here, and then your entity definition here, and an architecture definition template here. And what you have to do is fill in the gaps, you know, defining the entity ports and defining the behavior of your HalfAdder. So we're going to just take that from the example in the notes actually. So if we scroll up to the HalfAdder example, here it is here. So the port declarations are here. I'm just going to copy and paste them. You could of course write them from scratch, but it's a bit quicker for me just to do it this way. I'm going to just type in end HalfAdder here just so it actually meets the file we have here. It will work without that, but it's just tidy that if you're starting an entity declaration, you're ending the same entity declaration with the same name. And then for the architecture, that defines what the device is going to do. So it's going to produce a carry if both inputs are high, and it's going to produce a sum if actually A exclusive or B, which is what this statement says. You could just use X or A, X or B. That would also mean the same thing. I'm not very sure why it's been written this way. Okay, well, anyway, we'll just follow that. I know it does work, so again, I'm just going to copy and paste that here. And let's have a quick check that both files look the same. So now we have our HalfAdder defined. It's got two input ports, A and B, standard logic, and it's got two output ports, a sum and a carry. And as I just said, carry is A and B, and sum is A, X or B. So that's fine. Let's save that now. So it will save to the file HalfAdder VHD, so you can find it later. And then we can actually close that. So this is quite straightforward. And then you'll see that the halfadder.vhdl file has been added to our component design. So if we click on that, what we really want to do is simplify and synthesize it. So double clicking on there will synthesize the file, compile the file, and tell us if there's any errors down here. So there's actually no errors at the moment, I think. We'll try it and see. So double click on that. It does take a little bit of time, but you can see it working down here. Any error messages will appear in this window here. just waiting for that to synthesize. Just quite slow. There we go. So down here I've got a done completed successfully, which means it's all working. We should be able to see compiled equations if we wanted to do that, I think. So in the control or command window down here we have the compiled equations. So you should be used to seeing this, having done the able files in Electronics 2 and also the VHDL that we did in Electronics 2. What we can see here is telling us how much of the device is being used up by the program, and then further down we have the basically simplified equations ready for the programmer to blow the correct fuses in the device for. Okay, so we won't go any further with that just now. I think we'll call it a day for that. I was going to show you if there was an error in the file what would happen. So let's just double clicking on this window here will reopen the text editor. So if we double left click on that, we get our text editor. I'm going to just put in an error. So let's say I've forgotten to put the bracket in at the end there. One thing you will notice, everything that's completed successfully gets these green ticks. Things that don't complete successfully get a red cross. I'll show you that just now. So let's save that. Close it again. You'll see the green ticks will disappear. Oh, they didn't that time. They will when we redo this. Okay, so we're going to synthesize it again. Yeah, the green ticks did disappear. It's just a bit slow. So it's working again. Shouldn't take long. There we go. Okay, so errors occurred. You get a nice pop-up window that tells you that errors are occurring. If we click OK on that, we can actually find out what the error was by scrolling up on our screen here. So you can see here error, and done failed with exit code. But if we scroll up, the line here defines what the error was. So if we double click on that red line, double left click on that red line, we get some indication of where in the file the error was. So you'll remember the error is there's a missing bracket here. So it's actually highlighting the line after that. That's the first line of code that it wasn't able to compile. And I think you can actually see what the error is if we scroll along. So if we scroll along, unbalanced parentheses around port list. So if you know that brackets and parentheses are the same thing, that's quite clearly telling you what the error is. So we can add that back in. Save that again. And then we can go back to compiling it, and we know already that that's going to work. Okay, that's all for just now. Thanks for listening to the video. I hope it was sort of useful to you. Obviously, if you're writing your own files, you're probably going to get a lot more errors than just copying and pasting from the notes, but you will develop your skills in this as we go along through the course. Bye for now.